Today can be the turning point in your life by making a simple decision.
Fundamental questions of navigation. Where am I? Where am I going? And how do I get there from here?
I invite the leaders of our planet to ask themselves these three questions before they make any crucial decisions.
But if you don't make decisions, you're going to stay right where you are.
We are all map makers.
We are in a time of transition.
If we're going to change, we have to change the direction that we're going.
Our planet needs leaders who know where they want to go.
When we change the direction we're going, then we want to make sure we're going in the right direction.
Leaders who can see the big picture.
Because if we're not, we're going to either go backwards or we're going to stay where we are.
Recognizing the psychological and the spiritual shifts and changes that need to be made, often from the inside to the outside.
To be able to shape your future, you have to be willing and able to change your paradigm.
Complex journeys require navigation. The path to the truth is one such journey. This is your GPS. Hairstyling services provided by J.D. Edwards Salon and Spa, Palmdale Shopping Plaza, Madera Street. Accessories provided by Chevette Williamson Jewelry. Standout jewelry for standout women. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to There you go. All right. Welcome to the show, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in on this Thursday, the 8th day of December in the good year of our Lord, 2022. Boy, time flies. So for the past 13 days, there has been a worldwide movement. 3 more days to go in this movement. And that movement is known as 16 Days of Activism. And within these 16 days, men and women around the world are calling for more action to be taken to prevent gender-based violence. And this is what we're going to be talking about on our show today. The United Nations Secretary General's campaign, Unite to End Violence Against Women, Activism to End Violence Against Women and Girls, 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence Against Women and Girls, began November 25th and ends on December 10th. And so on today's show, we're going to be talking about this whole issue, why this is important to not just females, women and girls, but why this is important to all human beings who have a heart and who care about the future of our societies, our communities, our nations, our world. This is what we're going to be talking about today. Just to give you a little bit of background, the 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence Against Women and Girls is an international civil society-led campaign that takes place each year. It commences, like I said, on the 25th of November, and the International Day which is the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, and ends on the 10th of December, which is Human Rights Day, indicating that violence against women is the most pervasive breach of human rights worldwide. It was originated by activists at the inaugural Women's Global Leadership Institute in 1991 and continues to be coordinated each year by the Center for Leadership Institute, by the Center for Women's Global Leadership. And it is used as an organizing strategy by individuals and organizations around the world to call for the prevention and elimination of violence against women and girls. So this is what we're going to be talking about today. I'm going to begin the show today with a clip that will pretty much give you just a taste of how prevalent this problem is around the world. And then we're going to welcome our guests into the studio. So let's go with that first clip that says 16 days. That's the one.
Almost 1 in 3 women have experienced violence in their lifetime.
Fewer than 40% of women who experience violence seek help of any sort. Calls to helplines have increased 5-fold since the start of the pandemic.
Up to 640 million women have been subjected to intimate partner violence.
Every day, 137 women are killed by a member of their family.
Women and girls account for over 72% of human trafficking victims worldwide.
1 in 5 young women were married before the age of 18.
16% of young women have experienced violence in the last 12 months.
At least 200 million women and girls have undergone female genital mutilation.
The numbers are staggering, but behind each statistic is a human being, the face of a person who wants to experience love, care, safety, and freedom. We experience this in Christ, and so want to extend this to others in His name.
The foundation of our work to end gender-based violence is our morality, our conscience, and above all, our faith. That's why, as a Salvation Army, we are honored to join with the United Nations women in this campaign. We call for an end to gender-based violence.
All right. So this is just make sure my audio is turned on. This is what we will be discussing on the show today. Joining me are my guests, Erin Brown. Also joining us is S. Ali McIntosh and Lavita Thurston. There we go. Everybody's camera is on and we are all ready and rolling to go. Ladies, welcome to GPS.
Good afternoon. Hi, Lavita. Hi, Erin. Hi, Michelle. It's good to see everyone.
Good afternoon.
I just want to say thank you, ladies, for agreeing to do this show for me today. We know that there are only a few more days left to go to complete the 16 days of activism. And what I'm going to try to do in this show is I'm going to sort of bring everybody up to speed in terms of what were the themes for each of those 16 days, bringing us to today, which is, I believe, day 13. But welcome to the show, ladies, and thanks again for being here. Tell me, how serious a problem is this in the Bahamas? You know, I was a part of, my church had an event last evening where we discussed the issue of marital rape. And it was very interesting to hear some of the comments that were made from not just men, but women who are in loving relationships with their hubbies. And pretty much were on the side of there is no such thing as like a man can't rape his wife. And one of the things that was expressed, and just for the record, this show is not about marital rape. We're talking about gender-based violence, period. But I'm just using this as an example. One of the things that was said by one of the persons attending that event was that, you know, just because it hasn't come to your house doesn't mean the problem doesn't exist for others. And I think that is important to say because whenever we bring up this topic of gender-based violence, we get a lot of pushback from people who tend to think this is a them against us argument. When truth be told, it has nothing to do with women being against men or vice versa. But the fact remains that it is a problem. It is happening in our country, whether it's happening to us specifically or not. We should not and cannot ignore the fact that there are people who are suffering in this country from this problem of gender-based violence. So how bad of it is a problem here in the Bahamas? I don't know who wants to jump in first.
I can. It's very bad
Okay, please go
because
ahead.
it's very bad because not only you hear the number of victims crying out so often, there are many cases where you see, for instance, the guy who stabbed up the lady in the road with a child in her hand, turn around and try to roll a car over her. Then you have a number of cases in court where you don't hear the victims crying out, but you hear about the situations. And then you have some just remain silent and don't want to say nothing because the stigmatism of it, where people start to judge you. Like another example where the lady who got raped on Carmichael Road, and she stepped out to talk about it, and people start to lambaste that lady, start to ask question why she was out there 5:30 in the morning, why she had to walk, why she couldn't catch a ride from a friend. They ask all the why question, but nobody cared about the victim. You understand? No, let me rephrase that. A lot of persons sits and they just talk about the victim and they blame the victim. So if somebody get raped, they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to come forward and say, well, this what happened to me. So you can imagine someone in their home getting beat up by their husband or getting beat up by their boyfriend. They seen so much situations where women would get beat up and being abused, and people talk about it. Why she had to do this, or why didn't she do this, or why didn't she get it? Who told you she didn't try to get it? It's not so easy. And so this violence against women becomes so serious in our country. We're seeing so much women being abused. We heard about the young lady who had to run out the house by the neighbor naked, but nobody did anything. But when something worse happened, everybody want to talk now. Oh, she was being abused so long, but I was minding my business. That was your business then. Why didn't you do something? Why didn't you help that young lady? And so
A clear
it is
example of what
very
you're talking about.
serious. Pardon me?
A clear example of what you're talking about is the Baby Bella case, where neighbors heard
Yeah,
that child being abused
exactly.
and did nothing. And then we
Did
only heard about it
nothing.
after she died. Yeah.
But when she died, everybody all of a sudden want to talk about it. Oh yeah, I know her. She used to come on my porch, but I was minding my business. It's wrong. You understand? They could have
Erin, I see
saved that
you nodding
child.
your head. Yeah,
They could
Erin,
have
I
helped
see you
that
nodding
young
your head.
lady.
Let's hear
They
from you,
could have
Erin.
helped that young lady. Maybe if they had gotten in her business and helped her, it would have saved the child.
Yes.
You think if he abusing the mother, what you think about the child?
Let's let Erin jump in here, Lavita. Go ahead, Erin.
And Lavita, you're absolutely correct. And I think a lot of times too, we don't recognize the difference between direct violence and indirect violence. A lot of what you're saying of direct violence is not only the action that happened, but also the justification or society condoning it because of circumstances. And so a lot of the survivors and the victims who experience these things, they don't come forward because of the shame, the guilt, the conversations of being re-traumatized of all of the whys. And then the indirect violence speaks to just the attitudes and the stereotypes against genders in general. We like to say, there's a lot of sayings that we experience when talking about relationships and gender relationships. If he doesn't hit me, then he doesn't love me. If he ain't too rough, then that ain't the type of guy I will be with. He too soft, he too weak. All of these things play a part in how not only we view violence, how we experience it, but how we react to it. And as a disability inclusion consultant, listening to that video itself and not hearing the numbers from a disability inclusion aspect or the community, women and girls, boys and girls with disabilities, the facts are, living with a disability within the gender-based violence context, we are 10 times more increased to experience that. We are more at risk. We're more vulnerable. We don't have access to a lot of things to even report. And so you're absolutely correct. How bad is it? Michelle, my God, it is globally bad, but in the Bahamas, it is more poignant because culturally, we're a small knit of nations. Everybody know everybody hiding something. We're sweeping things under the rug. And so we're also faced with that element when it comes to violence here.
Let's hear from Ali. Ali, what are your thoughts on this?
Yes, good. Yes, good afternoon. I would like to say thank you, Michelle, for the opportunity to come on the show. And I want to agree with both Lavita and Erin. You see, we were all shaking our heads because we have heard many testimonies being involved with Women United. We have gotten the opportunity to be in contact with every group, every activism, every advocacy going on in the country. And hear the testimony of Lavita really brings you to a very great awakening and awareness that these things can happen. People can try to run away, and until they get to a point where they can actually make that dash and someone helps them, then they are almost stuck in a situation that we know exists very much. One thing happens here is that sometimes in a marriage and a relationship, you see two people, and so that's one unit. But people have to also remember that person, that wife, is an individual. So beyond the point of the marriage being the unit and they being one, the point is there are two to become one. So each of them are individuals, and their right to be respected, to be honored as an individual has to be part of the process, which a lot of men actually don't see it that way. And because they don't, that the person is an individual, not just their wife, not just their girlfriend, not just their baby mamas or the mother of their children, they go ahead and do what it is they want. And the biggest problem here is that the country is obviously run by men. And so we see that level of structure in the country. I mean, almost every institution in terms of where we go to get justice. And so sometimes it is just dismissed, that we are not talking something that's valid in this regard. And so that's why that takes the situation to an even greater and widespread existence.
We're going to give Lavita an opportunity to tell her story a little later on in the show. But first, I want to play a very short clip. This was actually the message of day 2 of the 16 days of activism. And this speaks to the importance of giving the victim a voice that is heard. Because what I'm hearing is that many women aren't coming forward because they're afraid that they will either be belittled or not believed at all. And so the message on day 2 of the 16 days of activism was listen to and believe the survivor. Here now is that clip.
When a woman shares a story, she takes the first step to breaking the cycle of abuse. Survivors of violence are speaking out more than ever before, and everyone has a role to play to ensure that they have justice. It's on all of us to give her the space she needs to speak up and be heard.
All right, so clearly, believing, hearing, listening to what the survivor has to say is a very important aspect of ending this vicious cycle. And Lavita, like I said, I know that you have a very powerful story to tell, and we're going to give you an opportunity to tell that story. But I do believe that we may have a caller on the line. Just waiting for my producer to indicate whether or not this call is for the show. No? Okay. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Then on the other side of the break, Lavita, I'm going to give you the opportunity to tell your story. So stay with us. This is GPS, and this is Global 99.5. Back after these words from our sponsors.
Understanding your microbiome, also known as your gut ecosystem, can Understanding your microbiome, also known as your gut ecosystem, can change everything you thought you knew about nutrition, digestion, immunity, and metabolism. Keeping your gut ecosystem healthy and balanced is essential. Ultimate Microbiome by Youngevity was specifically formulated to optimize this ecosystem. It provides the advanced support your gut needs through prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic supplementation. Our unique blend of probiotics includes Lactobacillus and Plantarum, healthy bacteria that can help prevent harmful bacteria from taking over your gut. Increasing your gut's population of beneficial bacteria creates a more balanced gut microbiome, which has been shown to aid in weight loss, skin health, sleep, mood, and may even help with seasonal allergies. Ultimate Microbiome also promotes the production of postbiotics. Postbiotics are key to help regulate your gastrointestinal health. To enhance digestion, Digizyme Multi-Enzyme Complex, a blend of 5 specific enzymes, has been added to Ultimate Microbiome. It can help break down food so your body can better absorb nutrients. Plus, we've added our proprietary I-26 hyperimmune egg powder to aid in the elimination of disease-causing gut bacteria and help your body balance its immune response. Ultimate Microbiome, the scientific, proprietary, and holistic approach to gut health that helps optimize your body's entire gut ecosystem. To learn more, contact your Youngevity associate.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for a rim fix and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Tracklight, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires. Cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Glasses love.
To stay healthy, it's crucial to make sure you get the nutrition you need every day. But it's difficult to get all your recommended vitamins and minerals from food alone. Even in the United States, 94% of people are deficient in at least one nutrient. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 by Youngevity is a simple, convenient, and affordable way to help your body get the essential nutrients it needs. It's an advanced plant-driven multivitamin mineral complex that contains certified organic whole foods, trace minerals, and antioxidants. VTT 2.0 supports your body's natural defense system with a proprietary blend of energy-boosting and body-loving nutrients, plus prebiotics, probiotics, amino acids, and enzymes that support digestion. With an unusually high ORAC score of 8,000, you get even more antioxidants to help combat free radicals that can cause damage to your cells. But to get the most benefit and value from any multivitamin, your body must be able to break down the nutrients so you can fully absorb them. Otherwise, they'll just pass through your system without doing any good. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 was specially formulated with synergizing cofactors to ensure you get maximum nutrient absorption. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 is the easiest way to give your body the balance and complete daily vitamin mineral supplement it needs for optimal support of your overall health. To learn more, contact your Youngevity associate.
This portion of GPS is brought to you by Tiki Bikini Hut at Junkanoo Beach. Great food, cool tropical drinks, and family fun in the sun. Welcome back to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm here, along with my guests today, Erin Brown, Lavita Thurston, and Elder S. Ali McIntosh. We are discussing the 16 days of activism in the Unite by 2030 to End Violence Against Women initiative to end gender-based violence. This actually is an initiative of the United Nations, and it calls for global action to increase awareness, galvanize advocacy efforts, and share knowledge and innovations to end violence against women and girls once and for all by the year 2030. Launched in 2008, Unite is a multi-year advocacy effort aimed at preventing and eliminating violence against women and girls around the world. And it calls on governments, development actors, civil society, women's organizations, young people, the private sector, the media, and the UN system to join forces in the global pandemic of violence against women and girls. So the second day, day 3 of the campaign was stressing the importance of teaching the next generation. Teaching the next generation. Here now is a very, very brief clip with regard to the importance of that.
Teach the next generation and learn from them. The example we set for the younger generation shaped the way they think about gender, respect, and human rights. Look for ways to start conversations about gender roles early on and challenge the traditional features and characteristics assigned to men and women by empowering young advocates with information and educating them about women's rights. We can build a better future for all.
So here's the thing, ladies. People that go on to become adults who abuse women and children, they started off as little children themselves. And they didn't come out of the womb as abusive adults. So somewhere along the line, that attitude, belief system, and behavior was taught to that individual. How important is it that we ensure that we teach the next generation to have respect for the sanctity of all human beings, all human life, including the lives of women and children? Let's answer that question, and then Lavita, I will have you tell your story.
If I may, I think, and I've worked with young people, and I've worked for quite a few years as a youth advocate and an activist regarding how do we socialize young people. And I do believe, as we know, there is a statement that says children learn what they live. And a lot of times, because of the level of abuse and the level of dysfunction in a family, it is how a lot of young people come up. I was listening to a young man say why he do what he do, which was a little illegal activity. He says, because I saw my mother doing prostitution. People were coming and going, and she knows she wasn't going to work and coming back that fast. But young people, they determine them in themselves based on the behavior they see in the adult. They determine in themselves what they should do. Sometimes young people develop abusive behaviors in terms of boys because of what they see in their parents, whether they're being abused, whether their father is abusing their mother. And some girls develop being attracted to persons, not in all cases, who abuse because they see it also either in their father or their mother tolerating it. So if we're going to teach young people about this, we have to tell them it is unacceptable. We have to have young people observe each other's personal space so that no one is allowed to touch them and hit them without their permission. And so that is very important, that what comes out of the family is why young people do what they do when they become adults.
Yes. And to add to it, day 2, giving the victims a voice is very powerful. Amplifying voices, ensuring that persons not only get to hear the lived experience, but also provide the opportunities to ensure that awareness comes from a very holistic point of view. In watching that video, Give Victims of Voices, Amplifying Voices, we viewed words that were printed as the person spoke. So that also spoke to digital access. That spoke to persons who are watching something and they're not using their audio receptors to receive it. They're using their sight in order to read it. And therefore, that's also impacting them and giving them a voice to know where to go, who to call, knowing that you're not alone, right? And then reporting, being able to report is very important. And what we find is in these spaces, even from children who are experiencing either themselves or they're watching it happen, not having access to reporting, not being able to speak to somebody or speak up to someone as well to say, well, this is happening. I'm not comfortable with it. Or, oh, this always happens, and giving it a space where you can now not only bring awareness, but actually start to dissect the things that are being observed or experienced, even from that age. I think what we're dealing with a lot now is because we haven't really truly assessed the way that we are bringing awareness or education, the barriers that exist in reporting or receiving information of why it's important to have a voice, why it's important to advocate, or how violence plays out. There's a lot of violence that are happening that we normally don't consider it as violence as well. And so only when it now presents itself in such a physical way where we're now harming others or harming ourselves, then we as a society kind of perk up. But it has built to that point, and we need to now have the honest conversation, identify it, and start to address it from the onset.
I have heard of a situation, real story that happened here in the Bahamas, real case scenario of a woman who was being abused within her marriage, I believe she was a married woman, and somehow got out, found her way into a safe house where the husband did not know where to find her. The husband goes and convinces their pastor that he is so sorry, that he won't ever do it again, that he loves his wife so much, that he repents, said all the right things. And the pastor decided to intervene and convince that woman to go back to that abusive man. Within 3 days, she was dead. That man ended up taking her life. Now, why is this important? Because we have this perception in the church, especially, that because that person wears the title of pastor or they have a collar around the thing like what Ali is wearing, that they are experts in this and that, the word of God says this and the word of God says that. And you have some people who are very good actors, as was the case in that situation, where they will do and say all the right things to make you believe that they are truly repentant and they ain't gonna never do it again. And this is why the cycle of violence continues within those relationships, because somehow they are able to convince people, including the victim, that they are so sorry and they're never going to do it again until the next time. Sometimes people get out of it with their lives. Lavita is a clear example of someone who was able to get out of it with her life. Some are not so fortunate. So Lavita, let's hear your story. Tell us, give us a nutshell version. Ali wanted to say something before you go there.
Could I respond to that, Michelle, before you go to Lavita?
Sure. Right.
Yeah, what I find, and I am glad I have presented myself in this way today, as a minister of the gospel, because I have long advocated and I've long seen that many pastoral persons are not trained when it comes to therapy, when it comes to marriage counseling, grief counseling, a lot of stuff. Not because persons have come forward, been ordained members of the clergy, are they qualified to deal with these family situations? And even when I worked with youth advocacy with the National Committee for Youth Renewal, we found that there was a very lacking in this regard, and people, as you say, were redirecting people in ways that cost them their lives. And so I just want to clarify that as churches, as denominations, as the Christian community, that we cannot just give, and I wouldn't just say just give ministerial credentials to people, but we have to make sure that they are qualified. If they are not qualified, then they should not be able to advise in those situations, and they should have to refer up to a counselor or someone who can in that situation, because those kind of advice that are given that are causing people their lives, that has to stop, even though it comes from a person wearing a clergy cloth like I do today.
Right. All right, Lavita, let's hear from you. What is your story? Okay.
My story is this. At the age of 15, I was raped, and I knew the person, and I went to his mother and I told her what happened, what he did, and she told me not a good son, and she slammed the door in my face. And the rain came down on me. Being a child, you come to an adult to tell them what their adult child did to you, and they just automatically defended their child. Like, it don't matter that their child hurt you or did some wrong to you. From there, found out I was pregnant. I was supposed to get an abortion. My mother stopped the abortion. I had to bring the child. I had my child. I never looked at my child as a rapist child, but I kept my child away from them. They never could have seen my child. I entered an abusive relationship where 7 months pregnant, I got hit across my stomach with a PVC pipe. I ran across to the mother. The mother pulled the door out of my hand and said, "Not in here." She locked the door whilst her son beat me outside of her door.
Wow.
I had the child, and the beating was so constant, and for any little thing, he would beat me for. Even if I asked him, I remember one Christmas, this lady brought a his and hers watch for him and her and came to the house. And I asked him, "Why would you do this? Why would you allow your sweetheart to come to the house?" And he came inside and he beat me for that, whilst the woman stood on the outside. Then another time I was pregnant with my third son. He beat me 3 days coming out of the hospital because I asked him something. I found out that he had relations with one of the pre godmothers. And when I asked him about what happened, he beat me and I ran outside and his brother stood right there like nothing was happening. 3 days out of the hospital. I
How were
remember
you able to
trying,
get out, Lavita? How were you able to get out of that abuse?
I
How were
got
you able to?
tired. I got tired. God won't let me die. I tried to commit suicide several times, in and out of silence. God wouldn't allow me to die. So I just was tired. I had no hope. I didn't see no hope. And so I started to drink. You know, my coping mechanism was just stay drunk. When he go, you just when time for him to come, you'd already be drunk. And that was my way. I started not to even talk or say anything because I felt like anything I said would have been something to trigger him off. Anyhow, 1 year later, I left him after 7 years because when I was pregnant, I had to like eat bread and drink Kool-Aid. Big Sunday morning, sometime I would lie to his sister and say that the baby was craving for some of her food. But it was not true. In all actuality, I was just hungry. There was nothing to eat because he would go gamble the money out, come home, break. Rent wasn't being paid. I had to steal baby clothes, things like that. I left him after 7 years. 1 year later, jump into another abusive relationship where I don't know which one was worse because with this one now I caught crab lice and he tried to tell me no, it wasn't him. And I started to cry and carry on with him. And then he said, yeah, I was fooling with one of my classmates and she was a dirty girl and all of that and whatever. One time I remember getting hit with a piece of wood in the road, and somebody saw it and ran to my mother and told my mother. And when my mother came, because of the shame, I didn't want my mother to know what was happening. I told her we were playing. Um, when I was pregnant with my first daughter for him, he raped this tourist. The police came to the house looking for him, and they ended up catching him. And his excuse was that the lady got mad because they had sex, and he told her he can't leave his girlfriend who's pregnant, and so she went and she said rape. And by this time, and I kept praying to God, why I have to be going through this. I watched my mother and my father drink and smoke cigarette, and I wanted to smoke and drink because I wanted to know what they was getting out of it. It was a learned behavior. And from there, I ran looking for some hope, looking for some peace away from home. And that's how I got raped. I was
think
the victim.
your story. I think what your story shows us, Lavita, reinforces is that when you're going through this type of abuse, what it does is it breaks down your self-image to the degree that you almost believe that you deserve this kind of behavior.
Yes.
Because what they do is they break you down to
Yes.
the point where you don't think anybody will love you. You don't think you're deserving of any better behavior. And it's a psychological warfare. Would you agree with that?
Yes. Yes. I was abused multiple times by both men, separate occasions. And I just got tired and I just wanted to die. But for whatever reason, God wasn't allowing me to die. And then the little small little hope that I had left was in my children. When I saw my children, I didn't want them to go through this. And so all of that encouraged me to find the strength to leave, because your children in one room and you in the next room getting raped. They felt like when they beat me, the only way to say sorry was to rape me. And so I was raped over and repeatedly. And I felt like a dog, worse than a dog, because I see the dogs on the streets wasn't getting treated like that. Why me, as a human being treated like this, from a child to adult, being raped by these men? Y'all treating me bad. I have to find my own food. I have to eat whatever I can find. I have to steal things so I could go and help your baby, your child. I had to steal stuff
Wow.
to help your baby. But you're working and you bring nothing home. And then on top of that, you beats me, and then you turn around and you rapes me again. And so where do you go to find that little
Yeah.
hope?
Peter, I'm very happy that you were able to survive that. I don't see you as
Only
a victim.
God.
I see you as a survivor.
Only
Yeah,
God.
thank God. Thank God. Now, on day 4 of the 16 days of activism, it talked about the importance of living out healthy relations. And again, this is something that doesn't just begin when these people become adults, but this is something that has to begin within the home from the time that they are little ones, observing everything around them like a sponge. So, Jason, I'm going to play a clip. Please make sure that the pod is open. All right. So, this is all about living out healthy relations.
Live out healthy relationships. Provide a living example of healthy relationships in your own families, churches, and communities. Display open communication, listening, trust, and respect.
They didn't hear half of it. All right. So leave the port open so that we can get our audience to actually hear what was said. I'll go ahead and play it again.
Live out healthy relationships. Provide a living example of healthy relationships in your own families, churches, and communities. Display open communication, listening, trust, and respect.
Your thoughts on that, the importance of living out healthy relations. And then we're going to take a break. Anybody want to jump in?
Yes, I guess as we look at that, and I think I alluded, not really alluded, talked about it before, having spent so much of my time dealing with persons who help children to be settled, like teachers, like principals, people in the educational sector, people in the youth sector, in my early career as an activist and as an advocate, that it is very important that the relationships of children and the relationship of parents to children and what parents do to help socialize their children is very, very important. And so we definitely, relationships when parents are grooming their children, whether they have two parents or whether they only have one, they can ask uncles and brothers to help them. In the case of women with single women with children, they can ask the neighborhood, people that they trust in the church to be able to do so. We started a program called the Church Adopt a School so that churches can have healthy relationships with schools to be able to help parents how they socialize their children, and to bring them up to be able to come into society and be a positive influence in society. Because if they don't, what they are passing on to the world will be dysfunctional as it is in their home.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes. And healthy relationships, it goes back to when we first start speaking about what is violence for persons? How common is it? What do people see as violence? What do they experience as violence? Because we know there's a lot of dysfunction, there's a lot of toxicity, there's a lot of conflict, there's a lot of components in sexuality, or even the lack thereof, reproductive and sexual management or rights that persons have, they're unaware of. And so a lot of it is human focused or human centered when we're talking about what healthy relationships are. There's a saying, the spider, fly in the web, the spider is excited, right? There ain't no issue for the spider, and what is an issue for the fly? And so healthy relationships are very subjective. We need to understand the dynamics, not only of the human experience, but also culturally. What do we view as? I've witnessed, we've all witnessed, even in family dynamics, that dysfunction is the order of the day. And then when you speak up against it, when you identify and recognize and you call things out, you're then either the black sheep or the outcast, or you don't know what you're talking about. So healthy relationships come from many dynamics, and we need to now empower persons to not only identify when it isn't healthy, setting boundaries to protect and ensure that they have the capacity to sustain or foster healthy communications and relationships, but also what is available to now move on, implement action when you recognize that you are in an unhealthy relationship and you need to get out. You need to get rid of the space itself.
Yeah. All right. We're going to take a quick break. On the other side of the break, we're going to look at the theme of day 5 and more.
I wanna add to the healthy living, please. Healthy relationship.
Okay. Go ahead real quick. So before we
At
take a break.
first, I didn't know what healthy relationship meant, or I didn't know what love was. But when God sent an angel to my rescue, I then start to learn what healthy relationship was about and what love was about. In the person of my husband, he took me on with all that baggage that was deposited on me from the age 15 to that point when he met me. And my husband showed me, hey, I love you for you. We're going to get through this. I used to run from my husband. And one day when I went to run, he just caught me and he held me and he said, what happened? Why you keep running from me? And that was the point when I told my husband that I was raped. And I was raped multiple times of what these men did to me. And knowing this and getting this new information, my husband did not give up, but he supported me. And so we talked about it. And now we celebrated 23 years of marriage, July gone. And my husband treats me like a queen, royalty. If he drink a cup of water, he has to give me some of that. He gets his lunch from work, he has to bring me some. And so now I know what love really is and what it is to have a healthy relationship. I also realized that those men that abuse and rape me, they also was abused. Okay? what they went through was learned behavior. They saw it somewhere. When a child born from newborn, the child knows nothing. Whatever you put into that child, whatever you deposit in that child is what's gonna come out one day. So that child saw his parent, his mother, being abused. Even from the womb, the child comes out and he portrays these different attitudes and behaviors. But it was a learned behavior. And so now we see all this problem, rape, murder, and all this. It came from somewhere. Nobody wakes up and say, hey, I want to be a murderer. I want to be a rapist. I want to just rob. No, that was deposited. The environment that child came from could be where he gets his behavior from. So we have to be very careful what we put in our children, what we teaching our children.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I say all the time, if you get little children who have not been exposed to any kind of violence or hatred or racism or whatever, their hearts are full of love. You will see them, they embrace each other. It doesn't matter the background or anything like that. But hatred, racism, violence, they're all taught behaviors. We have to take a quick break. On the other side of the break, we're going to talk more about calling for responses and praying for survivors. This is GPS, Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. We'll be back. Stay with us.
Your body's immune system is under constant pressure from things like stress, lack of exercise, and toxins in the environment. It's crucial to be proactive and support your immune system with the nutrients it needs to function effectively. But it's often hard to get these nutrients from food alone. Introducing fast-acting Zinc Plus Immune Support by Longevity. Unlike zinc-only supplements, Zinc Plus Immune Support builds on the proven power of zinc and adds complementary nutrients to give your immune system extra support. Vitamin D helps balance the effects of zinc, while our proprietary blend of natural fruit and root extracts provides the extra help your immune system needs to work against daily stressors. And we've included Longevity's exclusive plant-derived minerals to give your body the minerals it needs, but can't get from food alone. And because Zinc Plus Immune Support is delivered in a great-tasting, sugar-free, berry-flavored lozenge, it encourages quicker absorption of all these nutrients into your body. Zinc Plus Immune Support. Zinc plus the extra support your body needs to promote a healthy immune system. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for a rim fence and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Tracklight, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires. Cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Blessed love.
It's gotten harder and harder to get your daily requirement of vital nutrients from food alone. Without additional vitamin and nutrient support, your health and well-being can suffer drastically. That's why Z-Radical was specifically formulated. It combines a blend of antioxidant-rich vitamins, minerals, and botanicals with the protective powers of fucoidan to help fill the gaps from lack of nutrients in your foods. The core of Z-Radical is fucoidan, a naturally occurring polysaccharide that helps stimulate immune reaction, protecting you against inflammation and oxidative stress. We harvest this powerful mineral-rich nutrient from brown seaweed, harvested only from the world's most pristine ocean waters to ensure the purest quality. It's then extracted using cold process technology to ensure maximum levels of bioavailability. Then we add essential vitamins that help to protect your cardiovascular and nervous systems and are crucial for optimal immune and neurological function. Z-Radical also includes a proprietary blend of delicious antioxidant-rich fruits and berries. This great-tasting combination helps your body combat free radical imbalances that can contribute to a variety of degenerative conditions like arthritis and heart disease. Z-Radical. Experience the power of fucoidan with antioxidant-rich berries, 8 essential vitamins, and more to provide you with potent health benefits. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
And we are back. Welcome back to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm here with my guests today, Erin Brown, Elder S. Sally McIntosh, and Lavita Thurston. The telephone numbers to call 3260271, 3260271, 3260272, 3260272, and the WhatsApp line is 8010271. 8010271. As a reminder, the WhatsApp line is for text messages only. Do not call, do not send a voice note on the WhatsApp line. So we're talking about 60 days activism, highlighting the importance of eradicating gender-based violence against women and children. 5 years ago, the Me Too movement, founded by activist Tarana Burke in 2006, exploded and sparked global mobilization, creating a moment of urgency in preventing and responding to violence against women and girls. And since then, unprecedented awareness and momentum have been created thanks to the relentless work of grassroots activists, women's rights defenders, and survivor advocates worldwide to prevent and eliminate violence against women and children. Other movements around the world, such as the Time's Up, hashtag Time's Up movement was one of them, amongst others, have also been a catalyst for change. And thanks to women's rights activism and advocacy, ending violence against women and girls is higher on the political agenda than ever before, with progress in strengthening laws and policies, essential services, and prevention strategies. So this, perhaps more than any other time in history, we have seen where there is a great awareness. But that is just a part of the solution. It is also important that we call for responses to try to eradicate this problem. I'm going to go to the next clip.
Services for survivors are essential services. Shelters, hotlines, counseling, and all support for survivors of gender-based violence need to be available for those in need. So why not find out where your local service center is and volunteer your time?
I know one of the complaints here in the Bahamas is that there are very little options for women and girls who are being abused. Very few shelters available, very few safe houses. Oftentimes we hear complaints that the relevant law enforcement authorities don't act with the sense of urgency that they should. So how important is it to this discussion, calling for responses and services to be available, and not just available, but actively involved in ending the scourge?
Yes, and I'm glad that day 5 gave that insight into services, because specifically within the marginalized groups, whether they're migrants, whether they speak a different language, they live with a disability, they're part of the queer community, services are one of the major areas where we continue to find inadequacies, where it's not accessible, where we're not taking into consideration the unique circumstances of the survivors or the victims within these communities. For example, when we're dealing with first responders, if you now come to a individual who is a victim who has an intellectual disability, or who may be deaf or blind, and your own unconscious biases are kicking in because you're wondering, well, how do they know? How can they tell? Should I believe them? And so then for that then impacts the way that you now engage or respond to a crime, to something of violence that has happened to an individual. And then let's say we've passed that, And we've now gone to a center, a crisis center, a shelter, and they now can't enter the shelter. They can't use the restrooms. They're unable to communicate with persons because the shelter itself is not inclusive. They don't have the education or the training or the infrastructure that they need to ensure that even the most marginalized survivor or victim is able to access those things. So support services is not just about the lack of human capacity or persons who are there to actually provide the service, but it's also the way that we communicate, the spaces that we foster, the trainings that we provide to persons who are volunteered or tasked to be in these spaces to ensure, to prevent, to protect, to give referral treatments and just sustainability to persons. These services and these spaces must be accessible and inclusive because we're not meeting the mark. We're not ensuring that gender-based violence, violence-induced disabilities, all of these things that are happening, they're not being addressed effectively.
If I may add to that, Michelle. Yeah, if I may add to that, Michelle, the fact that for decades, we've been calling for more facilities to handle persons who come into contact or who live in situations that are dysfunctional and violence is involved. Even back in the 1990s, in the early 2000s, when I worked with National Committee for Youth, we were concerned more with youth, but we end up having to minister to women who had children. So as we dealt with children and their parents, the call was always there. What we had determined is that for order for that to happen, it has to be a legislative agenda. And it has to be placed in legislation in order for the funding that is necessary in order for these things to come about. You can't have shelters. You can't have ways to help women who are in trouble, who have to leave their homes, who have to go in shelters if there is no funding. I remember helping a lady with 2 children. We had to actually go and get her out of a house. She was locked into the house by her boyfriend. He used to beat her, he used to abuse the children. We put her in a shelter. We helped her got in a shelter along with, I think, with social services. And yet he found a way back to get her out of that shelter, take her back to where he was. What I find to be inadequate also is the law relating to enforcement. Because while we had asked that this man be not just only arrested, but be detained, he found a way from some of his buddies in the police force to be released and to be back on the street doing the very thing that he was doing before. This is a very serious problem in the country, because if you can get your police buddy to get you out or your lawyer to get you out and you are a danger to society, that'll be a problem. So those things has to be incorporated in legislation, and that is why we work for it. We work towards it. We read legislation. Women United, coming on stream, is doing the best that we can. We have committees in that regard. We have committees that speaks with the public prosecution office. We have committees that speaks to the highest level so that the legislation is adequate. I always tell people I'm not signing my name to any legislation that is not going to be adequate to do all the things that we need to do. And that has to be placed in law, that facility, that funding, so that those shelters for women can actually take place. So that's what has to happen when it comes to helping women come out of these abusive situations.
Yes, and I'm so glad that you brought up the women-led organizations that are not only on the ground, but globally. And if I recall, the 16 days of activism literally speaks to committing and the undertaking of policies that speaks to gender-based violence, that speaks to the support that is needed. And Women United being one of the organizations that we're all a member of. I'm the first vice chair and disability chair. It is about ensuring that not only our unique issues, our circumstances, our lived experiences are addressed, but also amplifying the voices, also making sure that we teach and we train, also give you the ability to build and to grow and to empower more women and girls, not just from the space of gender-based violence, but empowerment in leadership and political will, in education. All of these things are very important when we're talking about what are the next steps. And so legislation, policies, engagement, empowerment, these are the tenets of what most of our women-led and girl-led organizations are holding on to. These are the pillars and the fundamental action steps that we are advocating for to ensure that not only are the voices amplified, but persons are educated. We're teaching our future leaders, our nation builders. We're empowering our victims, our survivors. We're also ensuring that governments know why, how, and how implementation plays when it comes to ensuring inclusivity, accessibility, and empowerment for the sustainability of our women and girls and those who experience violence.
All right. Is that a call for the show? Okay, while he determines whether or not that's a call for the show, I want to play one more clip, and this is yeah, there. Okay, first let's go to the call line. Caller, welcome to GPS.
Good afternoon, Michelle Malcolm. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Okay. That's Lavita Malcolm. I think that's in the studio too.
She's yeah, virtually in the studio.
So Michelle, it's a good show you have today, but it's a bit nauseating, though.
I'm sorry, you're a bit muffled. Say that again.
I say it's a good show you have today, right? But it's a bit nauseating, though.
Nauseating for whom?
I mean, listening to it, it's really nauseated by, because I mean, it's like, when you're talking about gender-based violence, see, the problem is, don't put gender in violence, man. Violence comes from anywhere, from anybody, be male or female. And like this protectionist thing for just females.
Caller, with all due respect, caller, with all due respect.
Yeah.
Because you and I have this argument every time you call.
You ain't allow me today.
You cannot fix what you do not acknowledge. Nobody, let me finish my point. I'm not going to tolerate your foolishness today.
I ain't talking no foolishness.
Because this is such a serious topic. I don't want us to go down the road. Let me finish my point, please.
Yeah, go on.
Nobody is disputing that there is a problem with violence, period. Nobody is disputing that men are losing their lives at the hands of other men, etc. Nobody is disputing that. We are able to have a conversation about a specific problem without eliminating another problem. You seem to believe that the only way to acknowledge that other problem is to not speak about this one.
No,
I'm not tolerating that today.
I did not say that. You are saying that.
But this is always your attitude when you call here.
You say, I never said that. You were saying that. Because what I have to say today is that when I said that this protection, this thing just for the female, when it comes to violence, right? Violence is violence, be it coming from female or male. But the thing about it is, what is ironic is that, women, or to say, well, a woman who has been abused, right? Does she look to change? Well, she was already abused, right? Or she go on into life and she go abusing other people because she has been abused, be it male or female. Because, Michelle, what I find, right? We don't really look at let's say a woman who has been through abuse and she is allowed to have children or grandchildren, and she treats them in any kind of manner because she is in charge.
Caller, there is no doubt that what you are describing happens. I'm not disputing that.
Yeah.
But what we are saying is you have to, at some point, end the cycle of violence.
Exactly.
Okay? Exactly. If you can't acknowledge, your situation that you always bring up, you talk about how the woman was abusive to her children because she was abused. But we keep forgetting that she was abused.
Yeah, but
so the point that we're trying to make, and the point that the United Nations is trying to make, and the point that is trying to be made worldwide, is you cannot fix what you do not acknowledge. It is a cycle of abuse that must end. And the fact that today we are talking about a specific aspect of that abuse does not negate the rest.
Yeah, but Michelle, all I'm saying is, you can't go to the United Nations. They ask for that, right? But the bottom line is right. I mean, so it will only be like men who would be the abuser, because I mean, women abuse just as much as men, and they have the access to the children. Why? Okay, let me say it like this, right? To say, well, why you see some of these men and even girls act the way they act? Because of the homes they came out.
But we've already established that in this show. We've already talked about that in this show. Yeah, nobody's denying that.
So I mean, like, so you can't say, well, take that out of the equation to say, well, we're going to look out for say, well, woman or children. No, it isn't that, because children could even be, but when they grow up.
But again, we go back to the beginning. Where does this start? You cannot fix what you do not acknowledge, caller. Nobody is disputing that violence isn't a problem across the board, but that doesn't mean that we can't discuss a specific aspect of that violence. And every time you do one of these shows, you call here with the same argument. And quite frankly, I'm not tolerating it today, because you eaten up time that we could be having a serious discussion about a very serious problem in this country. I'm sorry, I'm not accommodating you today. We have another call on the line. Caller, welcome to GPS.
Good afternoon, Ms. Malcolm.
Hi, good afternoon.
You have a nice show. What the ladies them is doing, saying out there is very good. Only one thing they have to do is educate when they find these women them are abused and whatever. Really educate them to don't be deceived by some man may come back with smooth talk on their tongue and stuff like that. Because we've seen it mostly every day and stuff like that. And once the women then be educated, they wouldn't really try to get back into that relationship, because they could be deceived. Because I hear you say the man went to his pastor and maybe they talk, in the pastor went to the woman and maybe talk to the woman and stuff like that. Well, the woman must be, I believe she think that everything was all right. Because sometimes these fellas, they could be disguised and very deceived, ready now. I just want to get her so I could do her right back in once and for all. But they really got to be led by the Spirit of God. And, just take a break. And just take a break and just try to recuperate and be by herself and stuff like that, because sometimes people in their life are dangerous. I've seen it as an eyewitness of something happen. This man would chop his wife up and stuff like that, and he talked to him. They still going back. So, in other words, where do it stop? Do they like this abuse, or because they want to say, oh, your marriage is important, keep your marriage up. Yeah, you got to try to protect your life, because the marriage is going to always be there, but you got to protect your life. And I would like to see whatever the lady them is trying to do, if they could get her do and educate the women them, do, when we put you all inside this home and stuff like that, stay, don't be deceived, don't let these fellas them come around and, the man, your husband come back and try, or your boyfriend, and try to, talk, you meet to someplace and try to say, honey, everything is all right now, I changed, I go into church now and stuff like that, and all kind of things, but it's nice what they.
But caller, let me ask you this, caller. You are aware that there are some cases right in this country where women do what they need to do to get out and are still abused and killed? You're aware of that, right?
Yes.
Yes. I remember the situation of the young lady in the Anglican community who had left the abusive young man, and he found his way inside the house, shot her, and then, like a coward that he was, killed himself.
Yes.
We have a situation right now with a young lady who was recently shot in front of her home, and it is alleged that it was her ex-boyfriend who came to the house
Yes.
and shot the woman to death, allegedly. So, so it's not always a case of women making a decision to stay in the relationship. Sometimes they get out, and these people who think they have a right to their life still find a way to access them, and in some case take their lives.
And you see, because what they try to do when they start offering them gifts.
It has nothing to do with gifts. I just gave you 2 examples of women who got out and still lost their lives as a result. They ain't asking for nothing, trying to get back in. They end the relationship, but they still end up dead. They ain't looking for no gifts, but they still end up dead. And until we get to the point where we stop blaming victims for this problem, we quick to blame the victim. Oh, she want things. She thingsy. That's why she's staying in this relationship. When are we going to ask the perpetrator to take responsibility for their behavior? Whether the perpetrator is a man, a woman, whatever.
Yes.
And women in our society are going to put the blame where it is supposed to be, at the feet of the perpetrator.
Yeah.
But I just hope everything is all right, you know.
Lavita, you're talking, but your microphone is muted, my dear. You have to unmute your mic.
Oh, sorry. Every time I got beaten up, the black eye, the bruises, and I left. When I left, he would find a way to come back, carry all my stuff. And I was in a state where every time he told me he was going to counseling and he was going to change, I believed him. But it was no promise of anything or nothing to gain from it. I was at a state where anything he told me, I believed it.
Yeah.
You understand? And I wanted it to work, even though the beating was severe and the multiple rape. But he played on my emotions and he broke me down to ground level. But you have persons who are being beaten and they are still stuck in the closet.
Yeah.
So this is an issue that needs to be talked about. Now, you have male who are being abused also, but they don't want to come out and talk. So if the women them want to come out and talk about their story and their issue, see, in my story, there's power. In my story, there's deliverance. In my story, there is healing. In my story, there is hope. Every time I go there and I talk my story and I give my testimony, someone comes out of the shadows. Someone come out of the secret closet and say, hey, I was abused. Right. There's nothing to gain from this other than you're helping someone else. What I went through, I didn't cause it on myself.
No.
But I was equipped to share my story. So I should not keep my story to myself. And who don't like me sharing my story, I'm sorry. But you have to take it up with God. But this is an issue that is very prevalent in our society today. So many women are being abused. So many women are losing their lives. Look at the mother and the daughter who got killed. Come on. We should not be finding excuses or trying to attack the victims. We should try and say, you know what? Hats off to the survivors. Hats off because they're sharing their story and they're trying to help.
Yes.
And we have a call on the line, ladies. We have a call on the line. I didn't want to lose the caller. Caller, welcome to GPS.
Yes, hi. My name is MJ. First time caller. I just wanted to say that I don't want to take up too much of your time because I'm enjoying your show. And Ms. Malcolm, I love what you're doing, and I hope you keep it up, okay? But, but, my thing is, but then the guy who just called just now, and for some reason a lot of men don't get it. a lady said no, and that's it. You move on. You know what I mean? That's the way it is. No matter what you did for her in the past, you made that decision. Stop living in regret. Stop living with what you did. I regret what I did for her. No. If that's what you did, you refuse after it was your choice. She don't want you anymore. Okay, move on. And sometimes some people think like, no, it ain't just as simple as that. It is. You know, if someone gets you out of their life, I don't want you, because see, when you decide that you don't own it, we're God's property. You know, we're not each other's property.
Yeah.
We are in each other's life for a time and a reason and purpose. We need to move on after it's over. Move. You know, and a lot of men need to understand that. I know sometimes, I mean, I could go on and on for where to stem from and all that stuff, but I just want to stick to the relevancy of what you're dealing with, and you know, I like to talk to every single male. If the relationship, marriage don't work out, okay, you're gonna miss them. You're gonna mourn over it and move on. Don't go out and commit violence against them, because they don't belong to you. I don't care how much you invest or what you think you invest. You made that choice. So just move on. Okay?
All right.
And that's all I wanted to say. And I appreciate your show, Ms. Marco.
Thank you so much for calling. Thank you. We have to take a break, but I want to play this clip going into a break, and this is talking about the importance of praying for survivors. I'm going to play the clip, and then we're going to go straight to the break after that.
Pray for survivors. Every instance of violence or abuse is contrary to God's plan for his people and is unacceptable. Pray for those who have been abused or continue to be. We pray for healing, for support from families and communities, and that they may know peace in their lives.
Blood sugar levels play a key role in your appetite, weight gain, and overall health. When you have a blood sugar spike, you can feel confused, dizzy, and even have increased cravings. Eating carbohydrates. Blood sugar levels play a key role in your appetite, weight gain, and overall health. When you have a blood sugar spike, you can feel confused, dizzy, and even have increased cravings. Eating carbohydrates, sugary or fatty foods, and not exercising can all cause blood sugar spikes. But now you have help in managing blood sugar levels. Sweeties by Youngevity was designed to help support healthy blood sugar levels, so you can power through your day. It's a synergistic blend of minerals, herbs, and nutrients that have been proven to support healthy blood sugar levels. Sweeties includes chromium, an essential trace mineral that's known for its contribution to healthy blood sugar levels and improved metabolism of carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. Cinnamon bark has been included for its naturally occurring antioxidants and support of a healthy heart. And we've even added gymnema. It's been used in Ayurveda for centuries to help promote healthy blood sugar. All the ingredients in Sweeties work together to give the best support available for blood sugar control. Sweeties, the blood sugar support supplement from Youngevity that helps control cravings and manage blood sugar levels through your day. To learn more, contact your Youngevity associate.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for rims, paints, and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Tracklight, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires. Cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Blasted loud.
As you age, factors like health, weight, diet, and lifestyle can all impact your bones, joints, and general mobility. Even everyday exercise can lead to wear and tear on your body. Over time, you might start to experience stiffness or pain due to damaged joints or connective tissue. Ultimate Glucogel by Youngevity was created to help you limit the effects of wear on your joints. It delivers a daily dose of collagen-rich gelatin your body needs for joint elasticity and maintenance. Ultimate Glucogel contains a 1-to-1 ratio of gelatin and glucosamine sulfate, which is a key building block of your bone matrix, cartilage, ligaments, tendons, and connective tissue. Gelatin's unique blend of amino acids not only help with muscle and joint health, but also has been shown to provide additional benefits for the brain, skin, and hair. Ultimate Glucogel. Natural, optimal daily support for joint health. To learn more, contact your Youngevity associate.
Welcome back to GPS, Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm here, along with my guests, Elder S. Ali McIntosh, Lavita Thurston, and Erin Brown. We're talking about 16 days of activism with the goal of ending gender-based violence. And this is a worldwide initiative that has been spearheaded by the United Nations. Now, in spite of the many efforts worldwide and the growing awareness and achievements as it relates to ending this scourge, violence against women and girls remains the most widespread and pervasive human rights violation worldwide, affecting more than an estimated 1 in 3 women, a figure that has remained largely unchanged over the last decade. The most recent global estimate that on average, a woman or girl is killed by someone in her own family every 11 minutes. The COVID-19 pandemic has intensified violence against women and girls and has also exposed and exacerbated deep structural inequality, reversing decades of progress on women's labor force, raised the number of women living in extreme poverty, and increased the burden of unpaid care and domestic work, all of which exacerbates the risk factors and drivers of violence against women. And so the whole idea behind this movement is to try to move closer to ending this scourge once and for all, with a view to having it completely eliminated by the year 2030. Now, a big part of this conversation, ladies, and this was a part of the discussion that I was a part of last evening at my church. My church did a very engaging session on marital rape. A big question surrounding this whole question of violence against women and children is understanding consent. And I'm going to go ahead and play another short clip. This was the focus for day 7, understanding consent. Let me go to the clip.
It is important to understand consent and talk about it. Freely given consent is always mandatory. Rather than listening for a no, make sure there is an active yes from all involved. When it comes to consent, there are no blurred lines.
So what that clip said at the end was that when it comes to consent, lines can be blurred. I think that's what it said. So the thing is to make sure that you get a clear yes, and that's how you know that you have consent. Ladies, this is a big problem, especially in our society. What are your thoughts?
I think the ladies, well, what was said just a minute ago, make me think about the matter of marital rape. We are looking at several situations so that when we are talking about gender-based violence and where it exists, obviously there are different lines, and as she said, it can be blurred. When it comes to marital rape, I'm like this. I believe this: a man cannot rape his wife, but he can rape his spouse, because as a marriage, it is one unit. But 2 individuals exist in this one unit, which means the respect, the dignity of that individual has to be looked at. And if we do not, and I always tell people, women, when I counsel them, you do not dissolve into your husband, or you do not dissolve because you become a wife. both of you still exist. As a unit, you're a marriage, but as an individual, you have your rights. You have your right to speak, to be who you are. There has to be self-esteem within that individual, that they know who they are, that when whatever they're doing, whatever they're existing, that they might exist in the dignity and the self-respect of who they are. And I think that because it seems a complex issue with some people, and some people don't have the emotional intelligence to understand the difference between marriage as a unit and persons as spouses, as different individuals, we have a very serious complex problem in the country where we don't know how to deal with people with respect and dignity. And so, that is a serious problem within the nation, in our conversation, at least.
I have a question. This is one of the things that bothers me about this whole conversation about marital rape, and this is one of the points that I raised at the forum last night at my church. We have a lot of people who use the Bible as the excuse as to why the concept is that you cannot have rape within a marriage. And the argument is always, and again, this show is not about marital rape, but the argument is always, based on the scripture that says the two shall become one flesh. So let me ask you something. If one spouse kills the other, if a husband kills his wife kills her husband, we call that suicide because they're one flesh? No, of course not. We don't call it when a husband kills his wife or a wife kills her husband. We don't call that suicide because they are one flesh. We call it for what it is. It's homicide. It's murder.
Yes.
You don't have marital murder. You don't have marital homicide. It is what it is. So why is it that when it comes to this issue of rape or sex or violence, that all of a sudden this is a special circumstance. This is a special thing.
We can't miss, Michelle, the dignity of the individual. A lot of times we miss that. Although individuals, when we're talking about a choir, we have 20 people in the choir. If somebody shot up a choir of 20 people, they have killed 20 individual persons, even though they're saying they've killed the Baptist church choir. The fact is the sanctity of the individual has to never be dismissed, even though they exist in a group in some instances, but they are also an individual. So a man can beat up his spouse. He can beat her up, and if he kills her, he's going to jail. Just how it is that if you kill a woman who is pregnant, that baby that exists inside of her, he's going to be charged for 2 murders. So people cannot miss that. Sometimes it takes a great deal of intelligence. I mean, just intellectual sorting and to be able to figure out how you should look at this. We look at conch salad. I always use that example. Conch salad has 15 ingredients. And when you look at and taste a conch salad, you can't say something is wrong. You need to say it needs a little more salt, or it needs more lemon, or it needs more pepper. See, when you can identify the 15 individual ingredients, then you make up a conch salad. We are missing the point of the individuality of everything that exists. That's why we put it in a category, oh, you can't do this and you can't do that. You can't hurt your wife, and you should be put in jail for hurting the woman who sleeps next to you, whether you all are married or you ain't married. It's just that my contention when it comes to a bill that's called a marital rape bill, I have a problem with the institution of marriage being under attack. But when we look at the Domestic Violence Act, when we look at those acts relating to sexual offenses, we must make sure they are strong enough that whatever you do in terms of legislating where help can be had by a woman or a man experiencing violence within their relationship, it must be strong. And I've said this, that even when we are going along to make sure we strengthen the bill to protect women, we must also make sure there is components that protect men, because I don't want my son to be disadvantaged if a
Oh, okay, she's frozen. What I appreciate, what I appreciate about this conversation,
everything must be said
and
to
what
deal
what
with
we
all
can,
of that.
we can add.
I thought it was buffalo.
Yes.
Okay. Erin is speaking now, Ali. You went into a matrix there for a second. So go ahead, Erin.
Yes, what I would love for us to also recognize is there is no such thing as a marital rape bill. We are talking about the Sexual Offenses Act and the amendment of it to include spouses, right? That is the fundamental issue when it comes to the bill itself and the amendment of it. And when we start to create the terms marital bill as if it's going to be something that is separate and apart, it then becomes what I call a distraction tactic in order to sway or to deflect from the fundamental component of what is being addressed. It's about strengthening and increasing the access and the protection of individuals who may be in or out of a marriage. And within the campaign, when they spoke to consent and understanding consent, we also have to recognize, even within the Sexual Offenses Act, if you go to 12(1)(a) through B, it speaks to with or without consent, because it speaks to those who are experiencing mental disorders or challenges. And so language is very important when it comes to consent. Language, circumstances is very important. The individual and the experience that is happening, the settings, the intention, all of those things are very important. But it takes, and that is why the 16 days of activism is also an important component, because it speaks directly to legislation, to policies, to committing and undertaking the amendments, to addressing what is missing, what is the gaps, to remain focused on exactly what the issue is, and not so heavily on the other tenets of the cultural view or the perspective or what I feel like if you say that word, we need to now really be intentional when we're speaking about violence. Because when the gentleman spoke about men and why we're speaking to women and we need to teach our women, this lesson is for all human species, human beings. Male or female, my God, the cat and the dog could even learn something from it if possible, right? Because at the end of the day, we're not only speaking about violence against one set, we're speaking about violence, we're speaking about rape, we're speaking about abuse. And psychological violence is absolutely prominent in everything that we do, whether it's threats, intimidation, manipulation. We even witnessed most recently a woman who who got married to someone else, and the person returned allegedly and killed the husband. And so these things, that the impact of violence, it's not just about male or female. It's about the human experience.
Yes.
And how we need to not only address it, redress it, we need to teach, we need to penalize, we need to ensure that the criminal element and all of the legislation and policy and language is very important when we're talking about legislation. So if we don't get it right, there are going to be those loopholes that's going to allow things to continue.
To add to that, what Erin is saying.
No, we have to. Lavita, hold on, we got to take a break. We run out of time, and I got to get my sponsors' commercials in. So let me take this last break. I'll stick a pin in that thought, and then we'll get to it on the other side. All right? This is GPS, and we'll be back after these words from our sponsors.
At Lee Air, safety is our #1 priority. Flying since 1996, we offer scheduled flights into Fresh Creek and Mangrove Key Andros and Great Harbor Key, Berry Island, twice daily, 7 days a week. Affordable charter services are also available to anywhere in the Bahamas and the Caribbean. Lee Air Charter Services. Call 225-3267, 702-7127, or 322-1317 for reservations.
Understanding your microbiome, also known as your gut ecosystem, can change everything you thought you knew about nutrition, digestion, immunity, and metabolism. Keeping your gut ecosystem healthy and balanced is essential. Ultimate Microbiome by Longevity was specifically formulated to optimize this ecosystem. It provides the advanced support your gut needs through prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic supplementation. Our unique blend of probiotics includes Lactobacillus and Plantarum, healthy bacteria that can help prevent harmful bacteria from taking over your gut. Increasing your gut's population of beneficial bacteria creates a more balanced gut microbiome, which has been shown to aid in weight loss, skin health, sleep, mood, and may even help with seasonal allergies. Ultimate Microbiome also promotes the production of postbiotics. Postbiotics are key to help regulate your gastrointestinal health. To enhance digestion, Digizyme Multi-Enzyme Complex, a blend of 5 specific enzymes, has been added to Ultimate Microbiome. It can help break down food so your body can better absorb nutrients. Plus, we've added our proprietary I-26 Hyperimmune Egg Powder to aid in the elimination of disease-causing gut bacteria and help your body balance its immune response. Ultimate Microbiome, the scientific, proprietary, and holistic approach to gut health that helps optimize your body's entire gut ecosystem. To learn more, contact your longevity associate.
For all your building needs, it's Carib Construction and Project Management on Gladstone Road. We build it all: schools, homes, hotels, and more, including structures requiring a Phase 3 electrical contractor. We also provide project management services. The first step towards your dream building begins at Carib Construction and Project Management. Call us at 376-1556 or 341-4466.
One of the things I love about the mailboat is their relationship with Bahamas Air. I can earn travel points on my international freight and redeem them when I fly.
For me, online shopping is easy with Mailboat's U.S. addresses and regular freight delivery to Nassau. Plus, I can always prepay customs and freight, and they always notify me when my package arrives.
Yeah, a lot of people think the Mailboat is just for shipping, but they also offer a safe and secure storage facility at affordable rates, all in a central, convenient location.
We also offer passenger service into Freeport multiple times per week with a seating capacity of over 450 persons. With family movies on large screens, one hot meal included, and on-board lounge for snacks and soft drinks. We're the Mailboat. We're bridging people, products, and places.
Executive Printers is your one-stop shop for all your branding and customization needs. Letterheads, envelopes, business cards, invoices, share and gift certificates, rubber stamps, vouchers, funeral programs, brochures, flyers, banners, and promotional items like mugs, water bottles, mouse pads, and key rings, all with personable service and great quality. No project is too small or too large. For great turnaround and competitive pricing, make an executive decision. Call us at 393-5011.
Ladies, we are fresh out of time. I didn't even get to all of the points for each day, the focus for each day. I only have time to allow you ladies to give us your final thoughts. So this has to be no more than 30 seconds each. Lavita, let's start with you. Make sure you're unmuted.
This is a topic that need not just to be talked about once every week or every month. This is a topic that needs to be talked about very often. We need to do this several times a week, several times a month. We don't need to stop at all, because one might feel like, oh, you're attacking this gender or that agenda. It's not about, this gender or that gender. If the males are willing to come out and speak, I'm pretty sure that Miss Malcolm will have them on the show. The women them are the only ones who want to speak about this subject. So let's get involved. Let's go around the table. Let's talk.
Okay. Thank you so much. And thank you for telling us your story, Lavita. The final word. Okay, Erin, you go ahead while we're waiting. Come on, stream.
Thank you. And so for me, I would like to reiterate that 1 in 5 women around the world live with a disability, and that women with disabilities and girls with disabilities have compounded experiences, increased experiences for gender-based violence. We need to ensure that we also consider the biases, the unique circumstances, the stereotyping of women, the lack to access, the lack of access to support, spaces, all of those things reporting are relevant when it speaks to gender-based violence. So we need to not only ensure that this changes, but we do it in a very inclusive and accessible way that all are able to be
running out of time,
protected.
Erin. Running out of time. I got to give Ali his last word. Ali, you got 30 seconds.
Yes, what I believe must happen is men must come on board the work that women is doing. And I do agree with Lavita that we must do it. We must say it. We are not only protecting our women and girls, but also men who are caught in this situation. So other men must come on board to support the work, to strengthen the agenda and the legislation for gender-based violence to end, as is projected by the advocacy.
Ladies, thank you so much for joining us today. Here are the topics that we didn't get to cover in 9 days. Learn the signs of abuse. Start a conversation. Pray for perpetrators. Stand against sexual violence. Support women's organizations. And finally, hold each other accountable. That's our time. I'm Michelle Malcolm. Thank you so much for joining us, ladies. I appreciate y'all so much. Thanks for being a part of the show today. Tomorrow's Open Line Friday, TGIF, and I will see you guys tomorrow when you are my co-hosts and we talk about the week that was. Until then, take care and let's show more love.
Amen.
Global 99.5 FM reminds our listeners that the views and opinions expressed on this show are those of the host and guests and not necessarily